Welcome. That's the difficult bit over and done with. BBC introducing Musicians Masterclass live from Studio One at the legendary Abbey Road. This is being streamed live online, so hello to all those watching at home or at their desks at work. I'm joined today by two pretty incredible singer-songwriter producers. I'll underline producers, as they're both pretty prolific. Calvin Harris and Labrinth. Plus their managers, Mark Gillespie and Mark Williams. In the next hour, they'll be giving you invaluable advice on how to make it in the game. I didn't write that. We'll have 10 minutes at the end of the session to take questions from the floor and via Twitter. It's #BBC Intro MC. I'm sure that'll be up there somewhere anyway. So firstly, we'll have a little bit of a background for the two of them. I think one of the most interesting things for me is, I used to have a day job back in the 80s at a record company, and I was there for almost 20 years. And back then, a record company was kind of, you couldn't do anything without a record company. They were the gatekeepers. They were very powerful organizations. And that's all changed now. The audience, people like yourselves, people like these guys are totally empowered, and the world has turned upside down. There's pros and cons to that, and I think we're going to find out about that during the course of this session. So, firstly, Calvin Harris, introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Calvin. I'm 27 years old. I'm from Dumfries. I'm a producer.
You call yourself a producer first?
Yeah, I am a producer first.
You never wanted to be a pop star?
No, I never wanted to sing.
Right, okay.
Fell into singing a little bit, but I like making tracks, and that's it.
Labrinth?
I'm Labrinth. I'm known for producing Tiny Temper's 2 records, Passer and Frisky, and becoming an artist, singer.
And Mark Gillespie, Calvin's manager.
Hi, I'm Mark Gillespie. I have a company called 360 Group, which manages a host of different electronic artists and contemporary artists. I've been working with Calvin now for around 5.5 years.
And Mark Williams.
I'm Mark Williams, and I manage Young Labrinth. And yeah, I've started in production, totally different opposite. I kind of fell into management just through loving what Lab does. That's me.
Okay, so back to you, Calvin. Firstly, just give us a little bit of an insight on the early days for you, how it all started.
I was 14 years old. My brother went to university. He used to make music, like rave music, on an Amiga 500 Plus. And he used a program called Octamed, which was a tracker program, really kind of simple. It was like kind of a series of ladders, and in the middle there'd be spaces, and you could input a key in a space, and the key you could assign an instrument, or a bass drum, or a snare, or hi-hat, whatever. It's kind of lent itself to dance music, so you could kind of input a snare, and bum, 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 bass drum, bum, bum, bum. Set the tempo, and then you were away. So it's kind of lent itself to making that. I never really listened to that much dance music when I was 13. I was into Nirvana or whatever. And then I started making it, started listening to your show. I started buying dance music, and I got a bit better at it, and kind of progressed. Bought more equipment, bunking off school, got some terrible jobs to buy keyboards. And
when did it become apparent that was what you wanted to do? I think football, you tried to be a footballer, didn't you?
No, God no. Wow. No, I don't know, I always enjoyed it, but I sent out demos since I was about 15, and I think there were two main kind of people that inspired me to carry on. Simon Dunmore from Defected and Dave Piccioni from Mazzuli. They sent me handwritten letters and some vinyl of things that weren't out yet, which I got terribly excited about because I wasn't on promo lists or anything like that. So,
do you remember the first track you actually produced?
No. There was a lot.
I looked it up. We've spoken many times and done interviews, but I never heard about Stufa.
Stufa was my first alter ego.
Right.
And he made a sort of really bad French house and a filter disco sound. Well, that was the first thing that came out. I was 17, it came out, and I sold 4 copies. Mum, Dad, cat.
It's great when you know your audience.
Yeah,
you can name the people that
so that wasn't a roaring success, but I had a lot of kind of knockbacks from labels and people. It seemed like a lot of people were interested before I was 18, then I turned 18 and I couldn't play the I'm a really young producer card anymore. And then once that happened, I was just lumped in with everyone else and I wasn't good enough. So then that took a few more years of practice. Finally got a record deal.
And what was your first big break, do you think? Or what was the first step of the Calvin Harris we know today?
I met Mark Gillespie because I joined MySpace. Don't know if you remember MySpace.
Yeah, no.
Well, that was around before Twitter and Facebook. Everyone was on that, and I joined it because everyone else was on it. And I put my tunes on there, started adding people that I thought were either in the industry or suspected were friends with people in the industry. So maybe they would play my song. So I added him. I added a guy called Felix from EMI Publishing as well. And we kind of arranged to meet because he liked what I was doing. And he was like, well, I can kind of look after you a bit, like nothing formal, but he's got contacts in dance music or whatever. It was a lot better than what I was doing, so I was like, okay, let's do it. Took a trip up to the BBC Radio 1 Big Weekend in Dundee, 2006.
Sorry, I think I remember it.
And I started stalking all the DJs, like lingering
Like me.
around. Yeah, like exactly like you. So I gave you a CD. I had original mix of the Girls on it, which was just it was just really slow instrumental, just the chorus, no verses or nothing. I think probably except from the 80s as well. Then you played the Girls maybe a couple of weeks later, and then suddenly everyone was kind of interested. You know, got one Radio 1 play and it's kind of kicked off.
But interesting, MySpace actually was pretty significant for you then.
Yeah, massively.
Right.
Massively, because in that same week I added him, we got talking, I added a guy called Felix, because I recognized him from writing a Sugar Babe song called Overload. And he said he just started a job at EMI Publishing, literally. I ended up being his first signing at EMI.
Right.
So
Make it sound all so easy.
Yeah, but I mean, in the 8 years prior to that, you know, I was working in Safeways,
Right.
putting chicken on shelves and trying to rack my brains, trying to think of a way in.
Right.
It seemed impossible.
And Mark, what attracted you to him at the beginning? It's like a dating service, isn't it?
I think I had this fascination with MySpace and the fact that it was such a fantastic tool back then to be able to go out and listen to lots of different types of music. And when Calvin added me sort of as a friend on there, there was at the time you could download a lot of the tracks from the player on there, and one track I sort of downloaded, and at the time I used to DJ every now and then at the club night, where we met, and there was, when I kept going through all the different tracks that I was going to play at the club, for probably a period of 2 weeks, one track kept sticking out, and eventually I traced it back to Calvin's MySpace and got in touch, and that's really where it all sort of came from.
Okay. We'll switch to Labrinth. Tell us a bit about your early years. Tell us a bit about your family as well.
I know, it's a bit wild. I kind of come from a musical family, so I was in music from I was born. And it was in church first, like I had a gospel background. I didn't really like music because it was just, I wouldn't say I didn't like music, but it was the thing that the family done. It was that kind of tribal thing. And then I think I took a liking to music when my brother started rapping ciphers in the downstairs room, and then it was just crazy for me seeing all his friends come over, making beats, seeing the vibe of music. And then I took on, I just started, he was in more of the hip hop rap side, then my other brothers were musicians, and they played for like Daniel Bedingfield, they played for like loads of big artists. So it was kind of gospel-y and kind of like sequence music, like this kind of adventure I was going on. And then when I was like 13, I started working in a studio that this community project allowed me to work in, and I used to work there day and night, living off Jammy Dodgers and just making beats every day. Like my mum was like, "Where are you?" And I used to be in the studio all day, every day. And then,
is that kind of self-taught, or was there?
Yeah,
a
kind of self-taught. My brother did affect me. Like he kind of inspired me because he was using like the MPC at the time.
You can get technical because this is a.
Okay, yeah, he was using the MPC. He was using like some old school Logic that looked like nonsense to me when I was like about 12. And then I got crazy about this program because he never let me use it. I was just like, please let me just make a beat. And of course, I was creating some nonsense. And he never let me. And then when I got to about 13, I was like bursting to go. And then in school, I got introduced to Cubase VST and started using that program. And I think that's when it started kicking off. Like, me and my friends started our own groups in school. We kind of became this pop star group in school and put on our own performances. We made our own shows in the auditoriums in our school. And after that, I think it was kind of, I felt like I was a producer. I thought I was a producer. And up till, from that day, I've been like, I'm a producer. And then when I was 15, met my manager through my mum, because she was like, I have so many talented kids, and there's so many guys that have tried to get involved in my family because they were like, oh, the Jackson 5, well, 9 of us, but they were like, the Jackson 9, oh my God, they can all sing together and they can harmonize. And then, my mum was just like, I need to go down to this college and learn something about the music business. This guy was teaching down there, and he was just like, my mum was like, she had my demo CD, and she was like, you need to take on my son. And he was kind of a bit like Simon Cowell, and was like, oh, will he have what it takes? Is he just another, like, mum's amazing wonder story? And then when he heard the stuff, he heard potential and put me into his studio. And it's a bit weird to have like a 15-year-old sitting in your studio, like controlling your studio, which was a bit weird.
It's unusual that you would articulate at that age that you wanted to be a producer, because most kids would want to be the star.
Do you know what? I didn't even know that I wanted to be a producer. I didn't know what was happening to me, but I just knew that I loved music, and like anywhere music was, I went. Like it didn't matter. I was just like, wherever there was like Logic or like an MPC or like 2 spoons, I would find it and I'd just have to make a beat. So I think he saw that in me, and I was on his case. Like, his studio wasn't fully put together yet. It was still kind of dusty and had loads of rock wall and craziness in it. And then eventually I was just like, I've got to get into this room. And he was like, oh, God, okay, go and use it. And I've been there since I was 15.
And what did you the dating question again, what was it that you saw in him to give him the chance?
Talent, of course, and he just bugged me. He just didn't let go. You know, I was very reluctant because I was doing the teaching, and what I didn't want to do was end up in a situation where his mother had to finish the course, and we end up in a weird situation. You know, it's very too close. But he just insisting. I've got to get in, please. And then he backed it up with the music. So I kind of sneaked him in, like, just don't tell no one, because health and safety. Not quite finished yet, the studio, still building it. And he'd be in there while I'm banging, building the studio. He was in there using his MPC, knocking up beats. He had a couple of mates that he'd bring down.
I used to stand on a chair and make beats on an MPC. I used to put it on like a keyboard stand and make it really high so we didn't go to sleep in the middle of the night. So I used to be standing on it like just so I didn't go to sleep. But I think it's just, when you want to make music so badly, like, you would do anything to make it. It was a bit like crack, something like that.
Not that you'd know. Yeah.
I'm not a crackhead, you can see that.
So the Labyrinth that the public know today, what was the first big break for you?
My first big break, I would say, was Master Shorty. When I was 17, I met him through MySpace. Well, I actually met a girl that we're taking on now through the label, Henrietta Bond. And through her, I met Master Shorty at like a house party. And he was just crazy, like, it was a bit wild. And I thought, do you know what, like, I wouldn't mind working with this dude. He was like, I'm a rapper, I can do this, I can do that. And he was a bit out there. And then we started working on his album when I was 17. And we worked on his album till I was 18. And then it was put out early that year. And it kicked off because I think we were just trying to mess about. We were having fun with music. It wasn't down to a style or a formula. It was just about making music. And I think a lot of people kind of identified with that. And then I think a few radio
How did he
stations.
find it, like, working with like a complete, unknown?
He was the same as me. Like, we were both unknown kids. We met a lot of kids that were doing the same thing as us, and everybody was a bit like fresh and wild and kind of just wanted to make music and have fun with music. So we used to have like parties in the studio, which Mark didn't know about.
I did know.
But yeah, I know you did. I did. Yeah, just spending all night making music. People sleeping on the floor while writing a verse. Like, it was crazy. But it got the album done. And then after that, I got taken on actually through a community service I was doing. I was working with a few kids in my area, just helping them to use like music programs and stuff like that. And through that, I met another teacher there, this guy called Ricky Blue, and he introduced me to Danny D and Tim Blacksmith, that are the managers of Stargate. And it was a big thing at the time. They were just like, they loved what I did, and they offered me a publishing deal. And that went through EMI, Guy Moot. And then it just started kicking off. Then they threw in a lot of artists, and I was working with so many artists at the time. And it's a bit crazy.
And the Tiny Temper hookup?
That was through EMI as well. And I wasn't sure about that when I first jumped on it, because I wasn't sure that I was in his scene. Like, I like grime, but I wasn't a big grime head. I was kind of coming from more of the house, soul side, and especially meeting Mark. Mark was a producer himself, so he was in the house kind of jungle, like that whole kind of dance scene. So I learned a lot of stuff from him, and of course, dance and jungle and a lot of these sounds have kind of stem from like funk. They use funk samples, they use like, you know, yeah, old school soul samples, rare grooves and stuff like that. So my head was in that space, and then I wasn't sure I could give Tiny what he needed, but then I just had this some gritty, wild beats that he kind of took on and delivered on. Like, I thought he was gonna come with a grime flavor that I wasn't really feeling, but he delivered.
I've got to ask you, Mark, why do you think it is I mean, it's interesting your role, you know, you've been around a while, you remember the days where, you know, British urban music tried for so hard in the 80s, so hard in the 90s, kept plugging away. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't really have the opportunities or the investment, but now things have changed completely. For someone like Labrinth can come along, blow up so quickly.
I think back then there was, I think really from the start of the dance scene, we were building up for this. I think before that there was white music, black music, and there was separations, and the blend was quite thin. But then when dance came in, we all kind of went at it. You know, like you said, jungle, drum and bass. You know, you had intelligent, you had like Bruckwine kind of drum and bass, and I think the blend started coming from then. And then these kids growing up in it, I guess it's not desensitized. I guess, you know, they're used to that. They're used to having their own kind of sound that is so well kind of blended. It doesn't seem to be, there's not black and white anymore, there's urban. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, urban, that's pop now. You know? Yeah. I remember we went to a publisher way before, just before Master Shorty, and we played him some stuff, and he said, urban's a dirty word in here.
Wasn't he doing Pro Green's album?
He was doing, yeah, it was a publisher, yeah. And he said, urban's a dirty word in here. And we went away, and I said, look, we've got to really look at this, and it's how to make it. We kind of sat down and we talked about how to make it presentable for the British market.
Or more accessible.
More exactly. Yeah, not so, you know, how to make it weighty, but have all the right elements that make it kind of a good...
Yeah, because like, I feel like pop in my eyes, from where I was coming from, it was a very plastic thing for us. And, you know, urban is quite gritty, it's a bit left, and it's a bit kind of, you know, the way hip-hop came up in America, it was just them telling their story and not really caring about whether it was accessible or had the right melody on the chorus. And I thought, you know, when we heard that, when we went down to the publisher and he was like, urban's a dirty word, it was like, how can we almost change our language a bit so that people could understand what we were trying to say to them? And I think Biggie did that with Puff Daddy when he kind of started using funk samples on his records. It was, for me, it's understanding how to change your language to connect to somebody else. And I think that's what like pushed my mind to understand that, you know, like, oh, take on indie, take on house, take on loads of different sounds, funk. It doesn't matter what it is. If you can find yourself in that sound, express it how you will. And then, yeah, it kind of made me enjoy music on a wider scale.
Okay, we'll switch back to Calvin now. Just, you took us up to the point of getting a publishing deal. You very much represent a kind of new era of dance and electronic artists. I mean, the kind of prodigies, the left fields, the orbitals, the underworlds were kind of underground groups that kind of went live and crossed over. You kind of broke out and found yourself in the charts, competing with the pop stars of the day. So just take us through firstly, how important a publisher was for you in terms of enabling you to get going.
Yeah, probably most important thing EMI did was hook me up with Kylie really early on. She was doing an album. She wanted some young.
This was before you'd really started having hits.
This was before my first song, which was out in March of 2007. This was maybe July 2006. I did a couple of writing sessions, some of them unsuccessful, the only successful one being Kylie Minogue, but it was a good one to get. And you know, I got in the papers.
How'd you go about that again?
How'd you go? I just went down with the CD.
But it's Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, I mean, I was drinking quite a bit by then, so I had a bit of Jack really early in the morning. Maybe 9 or 10, I was due in. I had a couple of shots of Jack. I was like, right, I'm ready. It's advice for anyone.
Yeah, that's the one.
So yeah, that helped. But
how do you write with Kylie? You sit in a room with a piano, or you
it's weird. I'm not great in writing sessions. You know, I'm not great at writing in the big studios and.
Neither am I.
You know, just going in there knowing that you've got to write a song is daunting. So I came up with a foolproof mechanism, which was to say that the music is non-negotiable. Like this is the music. There's like 4 or 5 on the CD, so pick some that we like, and we can write a song. We had a top liner in there as well, Biff Stannard, who's also a producer. So he definitely knows what he's doing. She obviously knows what she's doing. So I just kind of sat at the back and sort of like I am now, like this, just kind of a bit scared.
And did she write in the room, or did she go away and like come back a couple of days later?
We wrote in the room. That was it.
Right. And it worked, didn't it? The tracks worked and it went on the album.
Yeah, 2 tracks went on the album out of the 3 we did. But it was properly scary, you know. The first time meeting her, although nice how she was, it was like the first proper, huge person that I'd met, and I was, you know, scared. But yeah, I remember the first time we were going around, they passed a handheld mic around, and it would come out. Track would come out and they'd say, have you got any ideas? And they'd pass the mic, passed it to me, and I was like, oh, no, in front of Kylie and Biff, or engineer that I'd never met before. I was like, hey, this horrible falsetto.
Pass the parcel, but...
Yeah, it was horrible, so I made sure I never did that ever again. Started learning the rules and when to say, I don't do that.
So publishing company, very important, introduce you to Kylie. So take us through then getting signed to Sony and putting out the first Calvin Harris album.
Yeah, it was quite a drawn out process, as I remember. There were a few people interested. EMI kind of sent my stuff out to the labels, so I didn't have to. They were like, look, this guy's producing for Kylie and he does his own stuff as well, so maybe you'll be interested in first ever flight was down to London, paid for by Gut Records. Met them, very nearly signed with them as well. We're literally in the office at the lawyers when Gillespie got an answer message from Mike Pickering at Columbia saying that we wanted a meeting, and I was due to go back up to Dumfries that day, so we met him in Victoria Station. In a coffee shop, and he was like, I really want to work with you, I want to put your album out and all that. And you know, it's Sony, so I was like...
Did it ever cross your mind, Mark, to try and do it yourself? Or would, you know, start putting records out yourself? Or
No, not really. Not in the very early days. It was still quite difficult, sort of back then. A lot of the barriers that have now disappeared in terms of being able to release your music yourself. You know, it was still a very heavily dependent physical market back then. Digital music was still in its infancy, and I think it was quite tough at that time to be able to go out there and be able to release music independently. Far different to the way that things are now. So, I mean, at the time, everything sort of came together in quite a timely fashion anyway. There wasn't ever a point where we sort of had to sit around and go, what do we do next? It was quite fluent.
Okay. And what about, and back to Labrinth.
Yes, sir.
You're the first act to get signed to Simon Cowell's record label that kind of wasn't on a talent show. First one in 6 years, I believe.
Yeah.
So maybe, do you want to, Mark, you tell us how that came about?
It's just same kind of thing as Calvin. We were ready to go to Mercury, actually. We were going to sign on the Friday, and we went in to see Sonny Takar at Psycho the day before, just with a view to doing productions, not for signing or anything. And we played him some material. We played him Labs material, and I think we played 4 tracks, and each track sounded different to the one that preceded it. And he was just blown away by the breadth and depth of the material. And his exact words were, he said, I want to put a deal on the table. I said, well, we're signing tomorrow. He said, well, you haven't signed yet, have you? I said, well, we're signing tomorrow. You haven't signed yet, have you? Okay, cool. We left the office, and within a couple of hours, my lawyer called me and said, what have you guys done? Because he's just blown everything out of the water, and you know, it seems like the kind of engine that could really do things. So we put it off another week, told everyone to back off for a bit, sat down and really went through it with his mum, with him. We just sat down and really just let it slow down a bit, and it seemed to be the right move. It really felt.
How did you
like
feel
the right
signing Simon Cowell?
It was weird at first, of course. Coming from Hackney, my boys weren't feeling that at all. Doesn't make any sense. Well, if you're signing to X Factor, are you serious? For me, it was the irony. I love the idea that I'm signing to something that's kind of a contradiction, but I just thought, you know, I can make my own music. It's not like Simon's going to give me the music to sing, and I can sing myself. So it didn't really matter which label I went with, as long as they could give me what I needed. So, and also, yeah, he's a popular guy, man, and now he's my uncle. So it's cool. It's all good.
Let's get a bit deeper into the actual process of writing and producing and how you go about it, because that's largely what I think we're here for today. So Lab, when you write, do you take us through the process? Do you have a concept in mind, a theme in mind?
The biggest concept,
an artist in mind? Because it's interesting. Again, you
biggest quote I have in my head is that there's no rules at all. I don't believe there's any rules in the studio. It's a creative place. When you're being creative, there's absolutely no rules. But of course, there's basic formulas that you can use, but kick, snare, hi-hat. Yeah, when I start a song, I usually I used to just think anything, and I used to just like mix sounds and stuff like that. But I think it's the idea that you've got to know where you're aiming your song at, because you can make an underground urban song, and the same way I was speaking about languages, you've got to know who it's going to connect to. Like, and it's producing is creating a product, so you got to know what you're aiming at. If you want a pop chorus, then you're going to get pop people. Like, so when I think about a kind of song, what kind of song I want to make, I usually start with thinking, okay, what song do I want to create today? And then I don't know. I always, even when I'm making something that doesn't really quite sit with my spirit, I usually try and find a way of, like, messing about with it or twisting it a bit, because I don't like to write conventional songs, so I try and do something that makes it a little bit left or a little bit me.
How important was it for you? I mean, you're a multi-instrumentalist, but self-taught.
Yeah.
How important is that for you in terms of what you bring into the studio, that you're so confident?
That's something that Mark kind of taught me as well when I was growing up. And I think, firstly, it's good to have guidance. Like, having Mark there was very healthy for me because, of course, a guy with experience and someone that understands music, especially being a DJ and a producer, he's delved into those worlds. So he's able to kind of give me info on them. And his idea, what he said to me first was 360. And 360 for us was to be able to understand sound and how the dynamics of sound, understand sonics and stuff like that, and then to understand your instrument and to understand the technique of creating songs. And for me, taking on instruments was like a step into another world that a lot of urban artists don't usually take on. Like they just usually think one note, as long as I can play these 3 notes, then it's cool, you know what I mean? And I think it pulled me into a lot of old school music as well. Like I think, our generation only goes so far back into history and where music has come from. We don't really look back as much as we used to. Like, especially coming from the dance scene, you would look back because of sampling and stuff like that. But I think that definitely helped, and I can make my own samples now. So if I want to make an old school record, I can do it. And if I want to go left and make a new school record, I think I like the idea that dance has given me both sides.
Okay. And Calvin, what does it take to write a #1 record? And how do you go about it?
I mean, it's easy, really, Pete. I don't know. I think every time I go in the studio, I like to...
Wasn't it ever scary for you that you sat down, the first few things you came up with, like, top of the charts? It's like,
No.
it's surreal.
Yeah, definitely surreal, of course. That's a word that I've used a lot since doing interviews. But, no, I like to go in and act like I've never used anything before that I'm using. I like to go in and act like a 5-year-old.
Were you trained? Were you taught?
No. Well, I started on Octamed, I progressed, eventually got Logic, which I still use now on a Mac.
Did you find your way around keyboards, guitars, everything?
Yeah, like instrument-wise, I'm okay.
Do you read music?
No, God, no. Like playing instruments, I'm good enough to play notes in a certain way into Logic and then chop them up to make me sound good. So if I can play a downstroke on a guitar followed by a little upstroke here, you can make it sound like you're actually playing the guitar, which I do, which I've done extensively. Okay.
You seem quite conceptual though in terms of the lyric content. The acceptable in the '80s girls. Does that come first for you before the music? Used to. Big, massive concept records. But it's there's only so many you can do before you start running out of concepts, and then you have to actually make some good tunes and try and do that instead.
There's definitely a difference between producing and
writing
a song.
Is it harder to do stuff
Making
for yourself or harder to do a tune for Tiny Temper?
Extremely hard to do stuff for yourself because, of course, you're sensitive about what you're creating. When you're working with an artist that is, of course, not part of your body, you go, you need this. Of course, it's like this. It's easier to give someone advice than give yourself advice, and it's kind of like that for me. When I make someone a beat, it's very easy to go, you need this, you need a kick, you need this. With myself, it's kind of like, but is it right? Is it the right kick? Like you think in cubed. You think like, you have to look at every side before you make a decision.
When you first came up with Pass Out, did you realise what you had at the time? I presume you had the beat and the
I didn't give a beep. I was just like, I was actually fed up. Like, I was tired of the industry, even though it was just a year in it. But
and it just started.
Yeah, I know. It was just a year in it when I got my publishing deal. But I was sick of the idea that I got signed for being different or being a bit left, and everybody wanted me to make what was out there. So it was like, can you make us a Lady Gaga tune? Can you make us a Rihanna tune? And it's like, why am I trying to create records that are already out there? And you bought into me because I'm a niche or I'm something that's different for the industry. And that's, I think, what made my writing sessions awkward, because everybody was trying to do this big Beyonce chorus. So then when I had a session on my own, I was working with an artist called Bluey Robinson, and our sessions were built off of kind of Master Shorty sessions, and they were quite free. So we were looking for some club stuff, and we were like, let's just make some fun music. And as soon as that happened, I think it just freed me, and it kind of brought success, which was great as well.
Okay, and Calvin, how do you find it working with other people? Obviously, the Dizzy Rascal experience versus doing it for yourself. I mean, he's renowned for making music all day long, working Christmas Day. He's up there while we're preparing, can't get his attention because he's working on a song. Different for you? Do you book yourself in a studio for a week, or do you find you're making music?
No, I started in my bedroom. I'm still in a room. You know, I never used to go out. As you can tell, I'm very
you made up for it now.
You know, I'm I put in the hours. You know.
So tell us how you hooked up with Dizzy Rascal.
I met him at a festival, and he said that he liked Acceptable in the '80s, which was my first song that came out. So I just found it hilarious. Imagining Dizzy listening to that and liking it. I realised that you know, he was obviously an open-minded kind of guy. And he said he wanted to do something, and then about 6 months later, he called me and said he's got. He did a verse for someone else's beat, and he said that his verse was much better than the beat. It's classic.
So
Dizzy,
he started
you know,
the process.
So he said, "Can I make the music just fit around the verse?" I was like, "Love to." Wasn't doing much at the time. Start 2008, I was like, just pottering about the flat in Glasgow. So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then he sent me Dance With Me verses.
That's unusual.
Yeah, just a cappella, and then the original with the beat, and then sat there for a while, made one thing to it, sent it to him, knowing it wasn't great, and he said, "It's cool. Well, we might use it." And I went, "It's not really good enough. This could be a chance to actually do something that's you know, big. You know, it's with Dizzy Rascal, and you need to do this properly." So I worked a bit harder. And
did you actually ever get together in the same place?
No, no, didn't for holiday either. Same process.
Did you ever meet him again while you were doing it?
In between, just to say, "Well done, number one, nice one."
Right,
and then, yeah, just I've never been in the studio with Diz to this day. Probably never will.
And,
So
and Holiday, was that more the
Holiday
pressure?
was the same, the other way around, because I sent him the beat, and then he sent me the vocal back.
Right.
Easy, so easy. It's just, I can just sit there and mix it. No interference from anyone else. I can just do my thing, you know, in the privacy of my own room, dance about on my own if I have to, which I do.
Yeah, I think that's what stops. I think sometimes, well, for me, it stopped creativity when I worked with people. When I first started working with artists, it was nerve-wracking, and I think it took a long time for me to get over that and just like do my job first, because I was just a bit I was scared. Like I was like, and it kind of, I think it stopped me being as wild as I would be on my own in terms of ideas and things I would throw at a track, because of course you're thinking in the studio, is everybody getting their input? And sometimes, you know, when I call it the Rubik's Cube moment, you're trying to fix a beat and you're trying to get it to its perfection, and there's an artist sitting behind you going, "When is he going to stop playing that same old sound? Can you change the track, or can you do something else?" Yeah, that's go ahead. Vernon was the worst. But the most amazing vocal though.
Right.
It's that
Vernon can
moment
sing.
when you're working on something and you know that it's heading somewhere.
That's exactly
You
it.
don't want anyone to hear what you're working
Yeah.
on, because it sounds really, really bad. And
But you know where you're going.
It's like a woman's makeup half on, and she knows that if you come in, you're going to see the other side, and it's not so pretty.
Good. He's good, this one.
that was a good one.
Labyrinth, you're now making your own record. You've got your own label through Psycho as well.
Yeah.
I know you could talk about that, but just you were sent out to Nashville, weren't you?
Oh, that
which is
was
like
sick.
the kind of holy grail of of songwriting. Just tell us about that experience. Kid from Hackney.
It was cool. I loved the idea of same thing. I like being a little bit left with my ideas. Same as signing to Sam McCowell. And I went to Nashville because I first thought nobody would expect that, and no one would expect me to understand it. But gospel has a lot of country, it borrows from country, and gospel borrows from everything, really. It has funk, it's got...
The other way round.
Yeah, okay, the other way, from gospel, really, yeah. Blues came from gospel, yeah. So gospel was like the first thing that kind of started it, well, pop music, really. And I just thought, you know, I know it, go down there and see how it goes? And I like the idea that I've kind of come from this electronic kind of wild world of kind of forward thinking in terms of music. And then I would go to somewhere that focuses on song and kind of the way they write is quite old school. They don't have no production in the room. It's just you sitting in what looks like your grand's house making a song, and then they just work totally on lyrics. And I think that was really important because I think your message is the most important thing on a song. And I think that's what producers down here kind of forget sometimes. And I don't think we go as far as the UK sometimes.
Were you comfortable doing that? So literally sitting around a piano with chords and top like that?
Yeah, it was cool because luckily, like I said, I learned to play. So as soon as I walked in a room, I was just like, ding, ding, ding. How about this idea? And then
it actually stemmed from the idea that we'd be sitting in the studio and kind of, because he learned to play the guitar quite well, you know, everything that we produce, we'd end up stripping back and playing on the guitar.
Yeah.
And if it works really nicely on the guitar, we figure you know, if you could strip out all the production, play it on the guitar and hear the song and feel that song still, then it makes it a good song to us. Or, you know, it's translated.
Yeah, I know a lot of writers that do that.
That kind of then led to the whole kind of development of the idea of going to Nashville.
Because, I think some producers cloud a song, and what makes it good is that it's been produced so much that it's a great song. So they put loads of gold on what you put in the toilet. And then they go, here you are, this is an amazing song. And then eventually, a lot of pop records that I heard when I was growing up was a bit like that, where it wasn't really a good song, but it sounded amazing because of the sound and everything else that was under it. So I thought, why not go to Nashville and try and get the real thing?
Would you go along with that, Calvin? That's probably one of the...
Yes, it's true. You know, the best thing about working on an Amiga was that I had all the sounds were coming out of a sampler of one Akai S3000XL, and there was obviously a limited amount of sample space that you had and a limited amount of tracks on the computer, so you really need to strip it down to the most important basic elements, you know, the song, which is...
I think people often get kind of gadget frenzy or you know, they want all the latest software, and you definitely go by the adage then that less is more in terms of...
yeah, well, I had no choice back then, obviously. Like, there's only so many bits of outboard gear Job at Safeway can pay for. So, you know, I had a Zoom effects unit, 99 quid, amazing. I had the Akai, I had a compressor, a Lasis compressor, which I believe is 59
Are you one of these guys that walks around, sings it into a little handheld?
Yeah, my voice notes on my BlackBerry.
Right.
Everything.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. But no, as long as you get basic elements, good bass line, good synth line, you can build things around that to an extent, but yeah, don't go crazy because you've got the latest Logic and you can have 200 tracks of vocal.
Okay, we're going to, conscious of time, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions from the floor. I'll go to the managers now. What are the hardest obstacles, do you think, for young music makers to overcome these days, Mark?
I think currently at this moment in time, it's probably getting the attention of the people in the industry. So even to a certain extent, I know Calvin sort of mentioned it earlier on, MySpace was a fantastic tool for a very long time to be able to go out and to discover talent. And something changed there a few years ago, which now means that it's not as helpful and useful as it was. They changed the search preferences on it, and a lot of the stuff changed there. So it's more difficult than I think it probably ever. It's quite difficult at this moment in time to actually have a platform where people can go and showcase their music and get heard.
And it's all about Facebook and Twitter for you guys.
I mean, Facebook is great once you're established. It's good for social networking. It's good to be able to communicate with your fan base. But in terms of actually going on there and showcasing music, it's just not built in that way where you can link from one person to the next. And I think the great thing that existed with MySpace would be that if you would go to an artist's page and he would see somebody that he listened to and thought was quite great, and they'd be their friends, and you could trace a route all the way through it. And as it stands, there really isn't anything out there at the moment. I mean, SoundCloud's great and it's developing in a big way, but it's
and how important is playing live? Calvin really went out big time, live band, and then spent a couple of years DJing. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, I mean, I think the band came after the record was finished, and it was something that Calvin spent a lot of time working on, spent a huge amount of man hours actually developing it and building a fan base and going out and and touring it. In terms of selling records, it was a fantastic thing for Calvin to have at the time. I'm sure he'll agree. It can put you in a situation where you can play to, you know, a good amount of people when you're playing your own shows, and when you go out and you play at the festivals, you know, thousands of people that wouldn't necessarily get to hear you. So it can be fantastic. It can be difficult to do as well because of the costs associated with it, and in order to be able to go out and tour extensively, it's an expensive game. So I think there's lots of different pros and cons to it.
Okay, Mark, a best bit of advice you'd give to someone starting out in the game?
Oh, man. Wow. I mean, just to pick up on what you were saying first, in MySpace, it's only been around for, it was a short window, really. I mean, it came in with a bang and then got taken out straight away. It's like a ghost town now, isn't it? Yeah. But that problem that we have now, we had before MySpace. It was always getting the attention of the people in the business, and it used to be send cassettes. You know, when I got my first record through, we called up record companies and pretended we were a business. So we called it Rising High Incorporated, and we called all these record companies and went round pretending we were, you know, already a business. Actually pretended we had a secretary, and it kind of got their attention. So it's the main thing. It's always persistence for me. I mean, I would never have moved into management if this kid wasn't so persistent to get in the studio and prove how good he was and need looking after. I would never have got in the business if I wasn't just dogged and persistent, and you don't take no for an answer. If you know you've got it, you got it. You know?
As far as dance music goes, send your tracks to DJs. It's easy, like the Afrojack and Laid Back Loop, they've all got their emails on their Twitter page. Just send it to them, they listen to everything. I know they listen to everything. Like, Afrojack got discovered through Laid Back Loop for him, as did a number of other people. I'm sure you know, but I've forgotten.
Yeah. I mean, you used to be the guy to send tracks to.
Used to?
Well, I mean, you know, before.
I love it.
Yeah, I used to. I don't send them anymore, but I used to send a lot of tracks your way.
I've got a couple more questions here before. Calvin, if you could do it all again, would there be anything you'd do differently? Like X Factor?
Wow. No, I'd do it again. Just do it.
Careful what you say, man.
Again and
Careful what you
again.
say. It's my family there, yeah?
I'll do that
Whatever
again.
happened to Jedward? Maybe one of them's here. He's here.
Anything different? I don't know. Made the bass drum stronger in a few of the original tracks.
Good answer.
A bit more sub.
I always want more bass, man.
Yeah. I think I've hit it now. I think I've got just enough bass.
Okay.
So I'm in a good place. Yeah.
Best lesson. I've got to ask you quickly about your transmissions films, because that's quite interesting as well. So just in terms of something else that he got into.
I don't know. I always look at the word being an artist as being a literal artist, someone that draws or creates something, a picture, a visual, or not just a visual, but yeah, you can create a visual with sound. People, when they hear music, they see music, you know what I mean? Well, I see it anyway. And I thought, you know, why not be creative with everything? And just like, you know, I think it's a way of bringing people into my world without having to say anything and go, please buy my music. It's just saying, this is who I am. And if you like it, come and join me, man.
Okay. I've got loads more questions here, but I'm sure you have. So if we've got questions from the floor, now is the time for Labrinth or Calvin. One there.
Hi. First, let me just say you guys are brilliant examples, shining examples of British electronic music. So well done. Just a bit of a cheeky question, actually. Are we likely to see like a Labrinth, Calvin Harris collaboration anytime soon?
Well, it's difficult when two producers collaborate.
No, it is, isn't it?
It's impossible for me, personally, to work with anyone.
C. I want to be in C. We've got to
I'm
play
not
in the key
into
of
it,
C.
so I like A minor.
So you're feeling it, bro. That's what happens.
Maybe you could sing on his tracks, and he could sing on yours. Yeah.
Also, I know he's going to ask for too much bass. So I'm very limited amount, just enough.
It might just happen. I think it will. I like this guy.
Another question. Can't be that shy.
Well,
One over here.
I was about to go home.
Here she comes.
Cheers. I've always been known as a bit of a front man, more than a singer. I'm doing like a 80s kind of solo EP at the moment. And I just wondered what little tricks you had for vocals and stuff. Because I remember seeing an interview with Calvin Harris, and you said you wasn't too sure about singing on your first singles and stuff because you was a bit worried about your voice.
Yeah. Layer it a lot, even in verses. I think last album, I really got into it. I'd never had autotune before. So I got autotune, and if you use it really sparingly, put it on quite a low, what do they call it? I don't know autotune.
Threshold, yeah.
Or something like that.
Wow. Thanks for that, mate.
You can use it successfully without sounding like T-Pain, which is good. But no, like the album I did 3s in verses and like 6 in the choruses, and then harmonies on top of that, so another 6 and another 6. Live, it sounded completely different.
Yeah.
Live, it sounded
Started
terrible.
DJing.
It sounded terrible. He said it. It's difficult doing it live. I mean, vocals, you've got to have something, like choruses, you've got to have something running off track.
The beef up in the background because you've got loads of backing tracks and stuff.
You can't sing it all yourself.
No, definitely not.
Get backing vocalists in.
I do something.
Get it all on track. Do it all yourself. Just get it on track.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, so give it a go.
Cool. Sounds perfect.
Thanks.
Question over here.
I was going to ask this earlier, but what's it? If a musician gets let down, say like someone turns you down, I mean, it's going to happen to everyone surely until you make it. What do? Do you thrive on it? How do you pick yourself back up?
You just do it. You just have to do it, man. Everyone's been turned down. You get turned down even while you're up there as well, man. Like, you just got to be on it. Like, you've got to prove yourself. Every day is a day to prove yourself. So
you've got to believe in what you're doing, you know.
That's exactly
it's really cliched, but you've got
does
to be
sound cliche.
confident that what you're doing is good and worthy of other people listening to it. You know, I think everyone is very aware of what is good music and what is bad music, especially if they make music. They know exactly what they like. And if you genuinely listen to it like you're the third person and like, is it good? Is it actually good? Does it sound right? Does it still sound like a demo? Go back and make it sound better until you're like so confident. If someone turns that down, then they're wrong and you're right.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's so simple. Like if it's good,
but
it's good.
There is a thin line between kind of, like, you know, I can't say it on here, but like, you know, fooling yourself and kind of actually being great. Like, I think the best thing is to try it out on people as well. Get advice. Advice is the best thing, especially from people that have done stuff in the game. And then, there wouldn't be any reason they should say no.
I think subtle tweaks as well as you're going along. If you do get knockbacks, don't change your entire direction. But you know, like I said, the Beatles we're in Abbey Road, so I guess it's quite poignant. But you know, they went from they started wearing suits and stuff. Little subtle tweaks sometimes you can make that will change the language of what you're projecting to people, as Lab was saying earlier on. So you know, I don't think you should don't give up and don't make wholesale direction changes, but listen. Take in,
I think people aren't always paying attention the first time you come at them. I mean, it happens. You know, I put my hand up with Radio 1 in mind that you get so much music all the time. If you're a record company, publisher, you know, programming a radio show, you can't get it all the first time. So persistence is a big thing. Question over here. We've got a microphone.
When you're starting off in the music industry and you're sort of getting bigger and you start getting along with the business side of things, how do you sort of deal with holding on to your creativity and not sort of letting go of that because you're trying so hard to be the business-minded sort of person and do the big business stuff?
I think you have to sometimes ignore what's outside. I think the best way to be creative is to kind of lock yourself away from the whole hype of the industry and what you've done before and will you do it again. Like that's a very big thing. And a lot of artists have gone down because of that, or just become drug addicts because of it, because it's a hard thing to keep maintaining the quality of music that you've done before. But I think you shouldn't think that you need to do what you've done before. I think the best thing is to go, how can I be better, or how can I achieve that same feeling? Like I always go by gut feeling. If I love something in the studio, then I'm sure I'll get it back on the other side.
Question down there.
Get my hand up. Hello, are you holding it? All right. Do you reckon? Sorry.
I love
do you,
that.
yeah.
TV presenter.
I got to hold it.
Are we on? Okay.
Yeah, hello, we're on. Would you kind of recommend collaborating with as many different people as possible? Or, I mean, we're in like a kind of a band together. Would you recommend like trying to improve that brand as much as possible and work at the band and, you know, what that's about? Or just kind of find different people and try and further yourself as a kind of songwriting partnership or like a production partnership?
Why not?
Yeah.
Cast a wider net as possible.
Do you think it's still like as much stuff as possible?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, until you're ready to properly present yourself in whatever you're doing in the band. As long as there's not 20 songwriters on it.
We've got, like, we released like a single last year, and then we've done like a newer version of it, and it's without sounding horrible, it's a lot more radio. I know it's a terrible thing to say because you shouldn't do the whole thing. I mean, it's a pop record. Before it was like it had like Simpson stuff and like a big kind of guitar-y chorus and that, and now it's just a pop record, and we're happy with it and we love it.
Great.
But you know, you get that little kind of niggling feeling where you think, should I have done that? Should I have kind of changed it? But I think if we're still happy with it, there's a bit of me going, yeah, you're still happy with it. It's good. It's still you.
Does it sound good?
It sounds wicked. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
It's big. I'll give it to you afterwards. Good. Excellent.
Question here.
All right. As producers, what's your views on like using real instruments in your beats?
It's great. Improves everything. Tenfold.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're playing it in something like Logic or whatever, you can completely manipulate it and make it sound amazing.
I remember when I used to use like keyboard, like Cubase guitars. It wasn't a good look. Like doing bends and all those things. Like, it just didn't work. I thought I could sound amazing on a keyboard guitar, and it wasn't.
Something that's been recorded with microphones, like sonically, already sounds so much better. Yeah. Like piano, for example, compare a piano off your Casio or whatever to something that's been recorded with it properly, you know, it's great. I mean, the early days when I was still recording in my bedroom, I had this piano my mum and dad had from my big brother, like this upright thing, and I went down, I bought 2 AKG microphones, like some offer at Digital Village, and I went down and I did every single note, sampled it on a CD, and then from CD into the sampler, and I made my own little piano instrument. I still use it now, and it sounds like
sick.
Use it on Dance For Me.
Yeah, I've got one. I got one as well. It's amazing.
One at the back now, I think, over there. A bit lacking over here.
Come on, guys, get it together.
Hi, what advice would you give to artists who, been playing for a long time, had a lot of success within their own area, but are finding it hard to get to the next level, to break out of their own scene, basically?
Where are you? Are you there? Oh, what's going on, mate? Sorry, I couldn't see. So what is that? What did you say again?
Yeah, what advice can you give to people who have, they've had quite a bit of success in their own area, played some big things and done a few, big things, but they're struggling to break out to the masses, not just in the, their own catchment area?
I think keep pushing it, man.
Well, I would say to that one, more so than the collaborations earlier, when you're getting going, sometimes it's good to keep yourself quite, stay creative within yourself before you get too many influence coming in and changing your direction. But if you've achieved all that you've achieved in your area, I think it's the perfect time to start collaborating, to start looking at people who have achieved in their areas and trying to bridge the gap between the two, find synergy there. Then you'll start kind of most probably adding new life to what you're doing.
I got to ask you, Calvin, was one there. But quickly, but you're now both running labels as well. You're actually an A&R guy for Deconstruction.
Yeah, almost.
And you've got your own label. How are you finding that?
It's good. It's great. I mean, I had a little label running before, a Beatport thing, Fly Out, which had a few things out, and my main remit is just signed dance music, which is great.
We haven't started moving with the label yet, but our prime objective was to take on artists that we believed in and push them. It's kind of like the way DJs would take on artists that they like and play them is the same way. If we have that way of bringing new people through, then that would be great, man. And giving them the guidance that we didn't get.
Okay. Quick one there in the hat. Don't know how much longer we got.
I like your hat.
Hiya, you said about MySpace not being so good anymore for new artists. Have you got any other tips other than pretending you're a company on getting attention? Because how do you get their phone numbers even?
BBC introducing.
Anything other than that?
It's going to become more important.
And the BBC introducing has actually been really great so far. There's a lot of talent that we've been talking to that we've sort of been introduced to through BBC introducing. There's an act that had a play 2 weeks ago called Vanguard. That had sort of worked their way through the introducing system that we've been giving advice to, and I think in time to come we'll take them on a sort of more full-time basis. And you know, we've got a great team of people within the management company, and a lot of what we do is about nurturing talent and being able to work with young upcoming artists. The management thing is quite a big, involved relationship, so sometimes, you know, not every artist is for every management company, not every manager is for every artist, but it's definitely helping. It's definitely something that we're using in-house to be able to communicate with up-and-coming artists and find new talent.
I think certainly if it was electronic music, you can still get a record out on Beatport, and then it'll, you know, people will talk about it. You find one DJ will play it. They're like kind of everyone follows each other, and you can certainly get a bit of heat by doing that.
Absolutely.
It's the old equivalent of having a white label in a record shop, you know.
Just say use every avenue you can. Like, if you're persistent, like we said, and you use every avenue you can, and you're trying, then you'll get somewhere, man. That's how it works. Put the hard work in.
For those at home, upload to BBC Introducing. We're on Florence and the Machine, Chipmunk, Two Door Cinema Club. All got their start there, so. Question over here. One more then.
You said earlier that publishers were almost, if not more important than labels. Could you explain a bit more about why they're important and what they do?
Do that.
I mean, it's difficult to judge whether they're actually more important, but they definitely have quite an important role in the artist development. They're fantastic in terms of being able to introduce artists to each other. I mean, in terms of their actual primary function, the job of a publisher is to collect royalties for the artists, and they collect them on a worldwide basis, and they actually make sure that when you release a record and it goes out there, that all of your royalties are correctly collected and accounted to you. But they also have a lot of other functions within their businesses that are very helpful. If you write songs, they will plug songs to other artists for you. They'll introduce you to other people on their roster or on other rosters as well. There are a lot of great people that work within some of the publishing companies that can help you develop your career. They can introduce you to people within record labels. So they can be a really, really key part in an artist's career.
I think it depends on how proactive they are. You know, I think in the kind of rough times of the record industry, as it was kind of reeling from file sharing in the last 10 years, then you had a couple of very proactive publishers who were a lifeline to people like Calvin and Labrinth, in terms of just having someone to talk to that would invest in them. I think the labels traditionally don't like publishers. They think they do nothing, but...
We worked with Tiny Temper through the publisher. Yeah. So, I mean, that was ultimately what really kind of catapulted.
Came from my publisher as well.
Yeah.
So
even the record deal came
my
from
record
publisher.
deal came from my publisher. Yeah.
They're working in lots of different ways as well now. You know, you can place. There are very, very many unsigned artists that have had great syncs that have been placed, and you know, brought them to sort of the public eye by placing their music within adverts. And they're a lot more proactive than they have been traditionally as well, in terms of being able to help finance people recording records and doing things a little bit differently these days.
Sadly, that's all we've got time for. So thank you to the Marks, to Labrinth and Calvin Harris, and enjoy the rest of your day here at Abbey Road. Thank you.